everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is the Mental Breakdown. I'm your host, Joey Velez. Today, we're going to tackle one of the most popular sayings in sports, in business, in personal development, is that discipline beats motivation. You've probably seen it on, social media and locker rooms, motivational posters. It sounds powerful, but is it actually true? The answer is a little more nuanced than a simple yes or no. So we're going to break it down. So when we're talking about motivation, we're talking about the desire or drive to do something. It's the excitement you feel when you set a new goal, start a new training program, or prepare for a big competition. Now, motivation can be incredibly powerful, right? It gets us started, but here's the challenge is that motivation isn't always constant. Some days you'll wake up energized and ready to train. Other days you'll feel tired, stressed, or distracted. Life happens. Confidence fluctuates, energy changes. If your performance depends solely on feeling motivated, then your effort will rise and fall with your emotions. Right? And that's not a recipe for long-term success. Now, when we're looking at discipline, discipline is the ability to follow through on your commitments, even when you don't feel like it. It's choosing to do what's important instead of what's easy. Discipline isn't about being harsh with yourself, it's about being dependable. Think about elite athletes, elite performers. They don't train every day because they feel inspired. They train every day because they've made a commitment to a specific standard. They understand that improvement comes from repetition, not occasional bursts of motivation. Discipline helps bridge that gap between where you are and where you want to be. So, does discipline beat motivation? In the long run, yes, but not because motivation doesn't matter. The truth is that motivation and discipline play very different roles. Motivation helps you get started, discipline helps you keep going. Imagine motivation as the spark that starts a bonfire, right? Without that spark, the fire never begins. But if you don't continue adding wood and tending to the fire, it's going to burn out, right? Discipline is what keeps the fire alive. The best performers don't choose one over the other, they use both. Now, what the research says, especially within the realm of sports psychology, is that consistent performance is built on habits, routines, and purposeful practice rather than temporary emotional states. Athletes who rely on structured routines don't have to make a daily decision about whether they'll train, they've already decided. Their routine reduces the mental effort required to stay consistent. That's why coaches often emphasize having a pre-practice routine, specific recovery habits, and consistent preparation. These behaviors become automatic over time, right? When something becomes a habit, it requires less motivation to maintain. Now, when is discipline not enough? So here's something that's often overlooked. Discipline without purpose can eventually lead to burnout. If you're constantly forcing yourself to train without reconnecting to why you started, performance can become almost robotic. That's why it's important to regularly revisit what your purpose is. So asking yourself, why does this goal matter to me? What kind of athlete or individual am I trying to become? Purpose fuels motivation, and then discipline turns that purpose into action. Together, they're much more powerful than using one by itself. Now, there are a couple ways we can build discipline, right? First is to create routines instead of relying on feelings. So instead of asking yourself every morning whether you want to train, decide ahead of time when and how you'll train. Remove that daily debate. Another thing you can do is lower the barrier to getting started. Some days you won't feel like completing an entire workout. So tell yourself, we'll just do 10 minutes. Once you begin, momentum often takes over. Right? Another thing you can think about is, focus on keeping promises to yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you strengthen your confidence. You begin to trust yourself. And self-trust is one of the strongest foundations of mental performance. So, does discipline beat motivation? If we're talking about long-term success, consistency, resilience, then the answer is most likely yes. But discipline doesn't replace motivation. It protects you when motivation fades. The individuals who reach their potential aren't motivated every single day. They're the ones who continue showing up on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. So the next time you don't feel like training, ask yourself one question. Am I waiting to feel motivated, or am I committed to becoming the person I want to be? Because motivation may open the door, but discipline is what keeps you walking through it. Champions aren't defined by what they do on their best days. They're defined by what they choose to do on the days they don't feel like it. And that's what I have for you all today. And thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to download, like, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform. Go ahead and follow me on socials at Les Mental Performance on Instagram and at Mental Coach Joe on TikTok. And that's what I have for you all today. I'll see you guys soon. And don't forget, today's a great day to make an impact on someone's life. All right, y'all. Have a good one.